There's going to be 3 of them pregnant already.
All right, Mayor, we're
Ready?
live, and just make sure everybody speaks into the mic so they can pick it up on the recording.
Time being 7 o'clock, I'd like to call a regular scheduled council meeting of August 14th, 2023 to order. If you'd all please stand, face the flag, and repeat after me. Honor the Texas flag, and pledge allegiance to one state, under God, one and indivisible. All right, first order of business is public input. Anyone under public input may speak on an agenda or non-agenda item for a period of 3 minutes. Council wishes, if you need more time, they may extend you an additional amount of time by consensus. I have one person to sign up in public input. It's Ryan Wolf.
Appreciate the opportunity to speak. Be quick and easy. My wife and I are looking at adding a secondary structure, barn, garage for our boat and storage. In that process, we discovered the town's guidelines for the size of that structure. Today, for a 1 to 2 acre lot, I believe it's 1,200 square feet is the max that you can build on that. And when you think about 1,200 square feet, you don't kind of think about the standard, I guess, or easy to build dimensions, which is 30 by 50, which would put us at 1,500 square feet. It actually costs us more to build a 1,200 square foot structure than it does a 30 by 50, just because there's so many kits available for 30 by 50s and things that we can build that look similar to our house currently. So I just wanted to throw it out there and see if the town be willing to revisit the ordinances surrounding the size of those secondary structures. I don't think it needs to be anything crazy, but if 1,500 is acceptable to the town, I think that would help a lot of owners trying to put secondary structures up. That's all I got. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Your one option, I don't think the town really is going to revisit all the ordinances on those. I have to get with the commissioner, but you're always welcome to ask for a variance at any time, as if you choose to. You can come and request a variance based on whatever your situation is. So yeah. So you could get, and if you have more questions, get with the town town staff, then they can answer all those questions for you. So. Next item is staff and mayor and council report. I don't really have personally anything to report. I don't know, Councilmember Castillo, do you have anything you'd?
Well, just if you want just a quick update on where we are with our police department, we're making a lot of progress thanks to the effort of a lot of people in town, including Donna Welsh and Steve Hill. There's a lot of people who have helped, and Troy's jumped in with both feet trying to assist. There's a tremendous amount of things that have to be thought of and planned to get the police department up and running. So we've been working as hard as we can. We've done absolutely everything to be good stewards of our funds, to ensure that we can achieve what we need to achieve safety wise within the funds that we have in the town. We are preparing, I believe this week, Donna's finishing up the paperwork to obtain our certification from the state of Texas. We're hoping that that'll only take 2 to 3 weeks, maybe, if all goes well. Once we have that, then we're off to the races, because now we're getting really close to being able to hire personnel and continue some of the things that we wish to buy that we are currently holding off, to ensure that we do get state certification before we expend any funds. And then once we get that certification, we're going to proceed. For a long time, we've had a targeted goal of 1 October, when the county contract ends, to transition to our Copper Canyon Police Department. And we're still hoping that that's going to happen. The biggest limitation right now is how long the state's going to take to certify us. But we've worked with the county commissioners and we've worked with the sheriff's office to get as much assistance from everybody that is in the halls of power to help us get all this done. So we've had to rely a lot on the sheriff's office as far as contracts for dispatch and data and all these things. So we're moving right along, and I really am hopeful that pretty soon there'll be a Copper Canyon Police Department vehicle parked outside all the time, and you'll be able to see it.
Yeah, just 2 seconds to sort of accentuate the financial situation relative to the police department. We looked at it for many years prior, and we decided it was too expensive relative to the service we all thought we needed. We've learned a lot since then, and things have changed, and there are an incredible amount of grants and support from the federal government and the state government that we had no idea about heretofore, that make this, from a financial standpoint, kind of a no-brainer. It's in fact going to be net very, very economical to get the kinds of services that we need. And having our own force is going to allow us to maintain the service levels that we expect for all of our citizens. We think it's going to be a very, very positive net contribution to the town and to the citizens going forward. Often to, and it'll grow with the town. So as we, as the town continues to grow, and again, some of that's going to be muted because we're really going to have a lot more development along 407. This force will be right sized for the town. So it's never going to get to a place where it's going to be, in my opinion, a financial burden. So I just wanted to add that because, again, I was part of the group of people that looked at this before, and I said it's too expensive. But especially with the grants available, this becomes a much more easy proposition from a town finance standpoint.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Council, anybody else? One other thing, just a couple of requests that I've talked with Troy, the town administrator, and he's going to start working on one of the priorities things I thought we needed to get, especially with PD, is the personnel policy updated. I don't know where it's at, but I know it needs to be brought forward and updated and relooked at, especially we're getting ready to double our staff. I've asked Chase to work with him on that as a liaison and as part of the council. And also we have some ordinances that Mark and Larry and myself met last week, but we have some ordinances, zoning ordinances and different things we need to look at and bring forward. And Troy's going to work with Larry on that. And so they're going to be involved in bringing some of that updating and clearing up some issues that we need to get cleared up. Anybody else? Okay. Staff report, Mr. Administrator. I know I saw Chief Vaughn come in. I don't know if he has something or.
Fire chief and the administrators, department will help be Mark as the one who initially served on the board. There's two terms. Right now, just going like in here, but just kind of getting feet wet, going through the budget process. Excited to be here, seeing this community grow, maintaining its doing well. That's all I've got.
Where do we end on the architect, by the way, for the?
Executive section room as well, right next door. Storage room, evidence room, and all things. So he is in the process of doing that with our IT contractor today, to look at everything, cameras, card readers, phones, jack, all those things we're going to need as well. So we're well into the process of getting that teed up. You should have some construction drawings for us or construction documents for, well,
Chief, do you have anything to add?
Evening, Mayor, Councilman. Thank y'all for having me. First of all, I'd like to just say thank you so much for the grant that we got from y'all. Last time we met, we had a lot of support from the communities, and with all the support we've gotten, we now have a no deficit, a balanced budget, not only for FY 22-23, but also we have a balanced budget for FY 23-24. So going forward, we've eliminated our deficit. Well, we obviously have some debt, but as far as a balanced budget, we have that. So that's been cleared. We've kind of cleared, but that's kind of some of the short-term measures we've been doing as far as trying to save money, be more efficient where we can. All those things, all those measures come together along with the support we've received from the community, we've been able to do that. The other big liabilities we've been working on really hard is the firefighters, pensions, and obviously their overtime as well. We've got that identified. The audit report from the third-party auditor is complete. That has been identified. We are now working with these firefighters and the third-party auditor and the Department of Labor to finalize that. And the way we're looking to pay that back is we have just received word last week from Point Bank. They are going to, we're going to restructure our debt for Station 3 off Copper Canyon Road. It's going to allow us to basically, was nearly paid off, but we're basically going to, the ESD is going to purchase the fire station from the AVFD. They're going to put the deed back for them and we're going to buy it from them. That'll give the Argyle Volunteer Fire Department, a fire district, enough funds to pay back the firefighters. So we're hoping that we're looking to make the retirement payments as early as September 21st. And then it may take a little bit longer to do the overtime payment, but we're hoping to get all of this resolved before the end of the year. So that's our goal. Other things we're working on is we also are looking to reopen. We started, but we're going to restart the more thorough, extensive forensic audit, the who, what, when, where, how did this all happen, to include how much was missing and kind of more in depth. It's going to take a little bit longer to do, but it's also going to include some best practices. The company we're using, BDO, they're going to give us some best practice standards, policy recommendations to go along with that. And we do expect working with them on the scope of the project. We think that they can give us a report in the next 120 days. So it could be around the first year before we get that, but we've obviously done some things, clean house, look at our how we operate internally and looking at put some checks and balances and redundancies in place to kind of keep things from happening again. But obviously we want an outside opinion, some recommendations from a very, look at everything from our job descriptions to our policies, just looking at all those little details of how we operate. So that's another thing that's in progress. We hope to get that, like I said, within the next 120 days. Other big news, as Troy mentioned, on August 8th, we had a meeting at the Commissioner's Court. They had a public hearing, which allowed to put the creation of the second ESD overlay on the ballot. So that will be on the ballot in November, and that is to create an EMS district for the ambulance services. So we have a current district, which we plan to use for funding the fire protection. And the second ESD district will be for the ambulance services. So on November 17th this week, our board of commissioners will be meeting, and we're going to have public hearings ourselves. One public hearing will be for the annexation of Lantana into the district. As you know, we've been working on the contract, and we had basically had an expired contract. We renegotiated the contract, so they will be paying the exact same rate as everybody else. So that contract still exists, but we think the better option, and I believe Lantana would agree, at least when those we've talked to, that it's better just to bring them into the district and just be a part of that, especially since they're now being built out. So that is going to be on a public hearing on this Thursday. We also have a public hearing to adopt our tax rate, which due to SB 2 is actually going to drop. Our current tax rate is 93 cents. It's going to drop down to about 8 cents because of our some of our debt. We didn't get to count. So a lot of things are going with in the last month. July was a busy month for us as far as calls. We made 305 calls, which has been our busiest month of the year. Last month was the second busiest, so we're growing. Generally speaking, we're about 5 to 10% more than last year on call volume, and in months, no, I'm sorry, 12% from last year, month to month, and then for a year, we're about 3% more. So about 3% more calls than when we have had in the past. I have been sending this report out. I think the mayors get this, and Troy, if you haven't got it, I'm gonna start sending it to you as well. This is the monthly report we've been working on since after January. It kind of gives you some data and charts and graphs, just to kind of give you some ideas of our operations and what we do as far as on a monthly basis. So it also talks about our community outreach and things we're doing. We did have a busy month for July. It was summertime. Now the kids are back at school, but July was a big time of year. We had the big parade here and a lot of community events on July 4th. But we closed out our summer science series. We had the big snake handler come out. We had 300 participants for that. We sold out. We actually could only have a limit to how many people were there. So each of the stations. So that was kind of neat. The kids, I don't really care for it, but the kids thought that was pretty neat. So had a big turnout there. So other than that, we've just been very busy. A lot of things going on. I feel like in the last 7 months, we've accomplished a lot. I feel like the ship has kind of at least been pointed in the right direction. Maybe the winds are kind of behind our sails. We're starting to get there. We still got a lot of work to do. There's no doubt. There's no quitting here. There's a lot of work to be done, but I do think we're making some progress. And with that, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
You're doing a great job, Chief. You're what that department needed, and you leaps and bounds compared to what just the information that you bring forward is great. So
Well, thank you.
Chief, do
Yes.
you have any visibility yet on what is potential recovery of stolen funds?
Just I can give you an update on that. I think last time I may have reported, may not have, but the former fire chief has pled guilty to at least 2 of the counts. The sentencing, we suspect, we don't have a date. We think that may be later this fall. There is some, I guess, restitution he's supposed to pay back. Our biggest challenge is we don't know how much of that money the federal government's going to get, because there is Medicaid, Medicare money involved. And so it is federal charges. So we don't know how much we will get from that. Despite all that, we do have a couple different claims, insurance. One of them, we were a little bit disappointed. It came back, they're only going to pay 20,000. We think we have another opportunity for 100,000. But it's going to be kind of more of a long shot. And then we also have a management liability claim that is a long shot as well. And basically that's typically when you get sued, but we're not, we're working to settle out of court with the firefighters, but that one technically could pay up to $1 million. We just don't know. There is some exclusions in that about retirement and salaries and wages, which is what we're trying to collect for. So we're hoping that is the 2 times the damages, which we don't think we should have to pay, is what we're hoping to get. So we are optimistic to some degree that some of that will come through, but I personally have not wanted to count on that. That's one of those things, hey, great if it comes in, and that's less use of our line of credit, which we've extended. So we won't have to use as much line of credit to pay interest on. So those things are great if they come to, they actually happen. If they don't, we're still in a good position. So there's a lot of things we're trying. And then, of course, when this is all said and done, we'll be looking at a civil suit against the former fire chief to see if we can get some of that back. We understand that he either had or does continue to have maybe some rental properties. And so there is some thoughts. We're working with our legal counsel on what our options are there. But I think some of that will come after the sentencing and what they determine as far as what they rule in the sentencing. So a lot of things are happening, a lot of things to look to. But again, those things would be great if we get that. If we don't, I feel like we're at least on a path. We don't have to rely on that.
Thank you.
thanks, Chief. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Thank you. Engineering report. Chris, you have anything? Where are we at on parking lot? Good. Huh? Good. Okay, so you'll be bringing bids forward for us to look at. Next item is consent agenda. Anything on the consent agenda may be removed by any member of council for individual discussion or consideration. Council, is anything that you'd like to see removed from consent? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve. Anything be removed? Hearing none, how about a motion to approve the consent agenda as written?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as published items 1 through 4.
Have a motion by the Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second? A second by Councilmember Andrew. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, unanimous? Oh, you weren't there? Okay. 1 abstention, 4 approved. Next item is just action and discussion items, discussion, consideration of taking action of moving fiscal 2021-2022 excess revenue expenditures from of $1,168,535 to the town reserve fund. Council, if you go to your budget, you'll see where we had budgeted last year $1 million and some change for budget. It came into a little over 3,100,000. We had $1,866,000 budgeted for revenue. We received $3,105,000. That money primarily was permit money that is a one-time add. However, keep in mind, anytime you have permit money for a new construction, now that just rotates into an ad valorem. So it will continue. It just continues into a different form. But all that money due to building of mainly Vickery and Boots and a few others made that number possible. That money tonight would approve. We will move it to undesignated fund balance for future projects, mainly road, etc. Any questions on that, council? Steve, any comments? Good. Go. Sure.
$168,535 to the town.
A motion by the Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second? I have a second by Councilmember Johnson. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, motion carries. Next item is discussion, taking action regarding ordinance 23.004 of amending chapter 10 of the subdivision regulation, exhibit 10A subdivision ordinance, chapter 1 of the general provisions. Council, this is in regards to Mark he'll update us, but there was 3 or 4 things that Mark was working on, the chairman of the P&Z and his group. And we've approved a couple of them. This one has yet to be done. And this was in regards to flag lots. Is that correct? You want any comments on that or questions? Be sure we got the right.
Yeah. Several years ago, we've had workshops to work on various and sundry projects. And one of those projects was flag lots. We at the time learned that flag lots were basically not allowed in our town because we have a minimum lot width of 200, except for some exceptions on what we call the cul-de-sac exception, which meant that flag lots just weren't allowed, which given the rural nature of our town, that seems unreasonable. And it was determined by the town, the input at the workshop that we should allow flag lots. So at that time, we proposed some changes to the town ordinances that would basically permit flag lots within certain structures and defined what a flag lot is. You know, how big is it? How long is the driveway? What is the lot? And there's a number of kind of, I'd call them very minor tweaks needed to ordinances in order to make that possible. Our town council had worked on it and had put some of them in, and some others didn't make it. I think just didn't get to it. So what this is, the purpose of this particular change is to enable those same things that were approved basically 2 years ago and just didn't make it in. So that's really the gist here.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Council, any questions on this? We met with
Ron, just one or a couple of questions for Mark. So we know that we have landlocked lots in this town. So what I understand, what is being proposed will ensure that landlocked lots have the ability to have access to a major street or road. I think it's important for the residents and the record that, you know, what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, the goal here again is we have flag lots. They exist, so it seems absurd that they're not allowed. The objective here is to permit flag lots and to define what is a flag lot, and, you know, is it kind of what is the lot? Should the flag pole be included in the lot size when we have our building requirements or acreage or whatnot, or should it just be the lot, the flag portion as opposed to the pole portion? So that was the objective here, was to make all those things clear. Now, over time, we may need to change some of those things and amend them. I mean, this was done 2 years ago. But that is the goal, is to make flag lots definable so that our town engineer and our permitting people can say, yep, that works, or no, it doesn't, and you need to do this.
Thank you.
I've looked at this a little bit, and I think with regard to the flag lot, that makes sense. So you're basically requiring the road frontage of any lot, 24 feet. And then the second part to this is the easement side of it, where you've got that as well as 24 feet. And so that's just the easement. That's no description for road requirements or anything, right?
Yeah, the goal here was to say, look, we've got standards for private driveways, we've got standards for easements, we've got all these other standards. The flag lots, that should apply to them too. In other words, yeah, fire trucks have got to get down this road and those kind of issues. So the goal was to basically conform. At the same time we were doing this, by the way, as a reminder, we also revised the private driveway regulations here in town, the private driveways. And so this was designed and structured to coordinate with our existing private drive ordinances. So this is really not changing any of the other town ordinances, just basically an enabling plan to make flag lots no different than any other lot, provided they meet the specific requirements of the flag lot ordinance.
Mark, quick question, if I could. Because Larry used the term landlocked land. And a flag lot, and I'm just trying to clarify from my understanding, is a lot that has some sort of an easement through somebody else's property.
Not necessarily an easement, it to be actually
Or it
owned,
can have actually be part
It
of
would
it,
actually
but there is a
own
flag
property.
pole
right?
to
This
get
doesn't,
you from your property to one of the main roads.
right, this doesn't affect any easements around at all.
Right.
This is really designed for those lots that specifically have a long strip that connects them to the exit to the town roads, and then a big lot that's kind of behind somebody else. So
But
it really
this-
isn't really addressing easements per se.
Right, but what I'm trying to clarify is this proposed change to the ordinance. If you have a truly landlocked piece of land that has no flagpole, no easement, truly landlocked, this does not address that, correct?
Correct.
All right, that's what I wanted to clarify, because this will come up.
That's an excellent point, and we know exactly where it's going to come up at, and but it's illegal to landlock a piece of property.
Well, what do we do about the ones that are presently locked? Is that up to the person who owns the land locked, that is piece locked?
He has
Does he
to,
have to make some kind of arrangement with his neighbor to buy or lease or some kind of access egress,
He has to
go
get a-
in and out?
dedicated right of way or
Dedicated
purchase of land.
So that does not cover that. That's still up to the owner to address that on an individual basis as needed to
Correct.
secure your lot for building on it or using it as something else other than just what it is, nothing.
Right.
To them, just dirt.
Yeah, as you know, we've developed over a long period of time, and things were done in the past that were just fine when you really are out in the country. But as we've become less rural, more urbanized, those things don't work anymore. And pieces of land have been sold and things have been landlocked. you can't really do anything about that. But if you're the one of the owners of those land, as you said, or as Ron said, you do need to talk to your neighbor and see if you can get an easement to get in and out of there. We can't create any more of those situations, but it doesn't really help us change the situations from the past. And this really has nothing to do with any of that.
Okay, anything else, council? No other discussion? I entertain a motion. I have a motion. 004. I have a motion by Councilmember Liebert. Do I have a second to approve? I have a second by the Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor to approve?
Aye.
Unanimous, motion carries. Next item is Mayor's report on the preliminary budget 2023-2024. Council, I won't bore everybody with all the details because a lot of them are pretty simple. Just a few bullet points that we could focus on. We touched on a little bit a while ago. If you look at 2023 property tax, current property tax that we received last year versus what we actually got, it was $927,830 in property tax. This year we're proposing $1,285,405 in ad valorem property tax. That's, as we all know, we got our tax bill. We all know how it went up. I got sticker shock today, actually. But when you go down and you look at building permits and other permits, our revenue will be down $150,000 because we're not going to be pulling as many permits, but it reflects from what we're not going to get in building permits, we're going to make up in ad valorem values. So our total anticipated budget will be $2,505,000 this year. A lot of this stuff, when you go through it, just moves a few percentage points here and there, just based on franchise fees, more houses, more franchise fees, et cetera. So those are not big jumps, but it will help us on the bottom line. Big expenditure, of course, will be PD. And when you look at the PD budget, it is a lot of one-time purchases. Now we have built in 2.5 officers. We've also built in the purchase of 2 vehicles, and we have a lot, I mean, from uniforms to guns to safe to sirens, you name it, it's in here. And some of it's minor, some of it's expensive, but a lot of it is one-time purchases that we won't have to do every year, but there will be renewals in every budget that we do. But we have anticipated coming on with 2 officers immediately, and then a second one probably, or a third one in April, which next year we'll be budgeting for 3 full-time officers. So I will sign a PO tonight, for instance, to purchase a new vehicle that we were able to obtain. It's not even built yet, but somebody else canceled their order. So they came to Rudy, he brought it forward and so we'll purchase it next year. But that's the biggest expenditure this year. Expenditure will be PD. We're going to be building the building next door. That money is $308,000, I believe, that is leftover COVID funds that finally they were able to find a way that we could use it for public safety. Any questions on the budget other than that? I mean, a lot of it is just simple, and for most of it, it's all simple. Steve, I know you've worked on this.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's there's nothing exotic about it. We're a more sophisticated line item, schedule for PD. But again, I think a lot of the we're going to see in grant money and support state, for example, bullet requests. They're free. Who would have thought? So there's a lot of things that we can get support for that, they're gonna really help cover a lot of our values with the pretty onerous and prohibitively items for PD. We have those very.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the grants that's available out there that they're working on that Troy and Donna will be working on once we get our certification that we can apply for. There's actually a grant out there that will pay us for 4 officers for how many years? For 4 years. And then we maintain the 4 officers for 2 more years after that. And plus they'll buy the cars. So these are all grants that we will apply for as soon as we get our certifications. Yeah.
Yeah, Mayor, if I could add about this PD budget, because I have seen some questions and some concerns from folks about the cost. What's it going to cost? Which is a very valid question. And as we all are keenly aware, we watch every penny when we're trying to do things like getting some vehicles that were gently used. And we're always looking for ways to keep our costs down because the costs are large. However, I want to remind people, first of all, every year there was an outlay of more than $250,000 to lease officers. So that was money that was gone. Yes, we did get the service. And now, that's been compromised. So that was money that was leaving us with no long-term assets. What we're doing, besides the grants, and in order to qualify for the grants, you already have to be certified by the state. It's the chicken or the egg thing. One of them has to come first, and we have to be a PD before we can apply for all these goodies. And there are a lot of them. And we're going to take every advantage that we can to give our citizens the best, most full-time coverage if we can possibly get it with the least amount of cost. But a lot of those things depend on us having a police department. And so we are working on that. The other issue is a lot of these expenses, yes, they're expenses, but we now have assets on our ledger. We're going to have a building. We're going to have vehicles. We're going to have radios, things that have value in and of themselves. So we're not throwing money away to do this. This is our police force that will be responsible to the mayor, to the council, and to the citizens. So I think overall, it's going to be a huge win for the town. And so we're watching the money very closely on this.
Well, I'd like to address this just a little bit from a little bit different angle, maybe from the homeowners side of it. What we're really doing is make an investment for our future. We're having to make, like Steve and Rudy have said, and they've worked so hard, and other people, Don and different ones, have worked on this. I personally haven't done anything on that but observed from the sideline. But as I go through the numbers, I was kidding Rudy earlier before that. I said, it costs a lot of money, but most of this is just outlay that we do have asset to back it up for. So we're making investment into this department to get it up and running and be able to get maybe some grants and different things. But I just want to say personally, from a council's, my position, I want to thank these gentlemen and ladies that worked on this very hard and very diligent to make this happen. The town is going to be so much better off for it. We will have full-time service from our people, and you'll feel more, you'll see them more, you'll see them about. So this is really an investment for our community. That's simple, short.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback on that real quick and then we'll move on. But we're putting over $1 million in reserve funds from last year. We're not raising taxes. We're starting a PD, and there'll still be reserve funds left over at the end of this year. So those are all very positive. Good.
Yeah, there's no better time to do this, the police department thing than right now.
So there's no action item here. The next 3 items are all budget related.
Mr. Mayor, could you indulge the lawyer in me for 1 minute? I think it's a technical issue, but we should clear it up. My fellow councilman pointed out that the ordinance that we passed, we should have referenced 23005 as the amending ordinance, and it would be best to clear that up if we could. The agenda
That's
shows,
2004, but if you come back here.
Motion by the mayor pro tem,
second,
second. Member Johnson, all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next item is discuss, consider, and taking action regarding filing 2023-2024 budget with town secretary.
Making a motion that we file the 2023-2024 town budget, town secretary.
Motion by the mayor pro tem, a second.
I'll second.
Second by deputy mayor pro tem. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is a roll call vote. We can call it name individually. Say aye. Okay. Discussion, consideration, accepting the submission of the no new revenue and voter approved tax rate calculation. We have to consider the proposed tax rate change. So the roll call vote. Is there a motion to approve this? Motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the non tax or non revenue or free tax.
A motion by the mayor pro tem. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'm second by the deputy mayor pro tem. Councilmember Lee. Take the vote. Councilmember Johnson. Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Councilmember Castillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Andrews.
Aye.
So that's five unanimous, 5 ayes, unanimous, and the motion carries. Next item is discussion, consideration, taking action regarding scheduling. We have a September 11th, 2023. It will be a public hearing for the proposed fiscal year budget. September 25th for the adoption of said fiscal year budget, and September 25th for a public hearing of considered proposed budget. Any conflicts in any of that, we do have to have supermajority of those dates, so we do need to only lose one person on any of those dates. So if some of those dates are unavailable, please let Troy know so we can be sure we have a supermajority of that. Hearing, is there a motion to approve the schedule?
I'm making a motion to approve the scheduling for the public hearing budget. As stated.
Another motion by the mayor pro tem, a second.
Second.
So Councilmember Lee, all in favor?
Aye.
Next item, future agenda. Ongoing, the do so. Joey, if the South Compton comes up, so. Time being 7:42, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Motion by the mayor, deputy mayor pro tem, second. Second, Councilmember Mandy, all in favor?
Aye.